Hey everybody. This video is going to cover the second sample compare and contrast essay that you were asked to read. This is the one on Singapore and Trinidad. So we are dealing with a compare and contrast essay. This particular essay uses the 1 point at a time method of development. So that's what I want to focus on going through this essay with you real quick. All right, so we have our introductory paragraph that grabs our reader's attention. In the middle of the cold Canadian winters, have you ever thought about escaping to somewhere warm to get away from all the cold and snow? And then, so they drew our attention with that question, and then introduces the topics in a general way, lets us know we're going to be talking about Singapore and Trinidad. And then as we get closer to the end of that introductory paragraph, we get the controlling idea in the thesis statement. While both Singapore and Trinidad are tropical island paradises with dynamic and vibrant cultures, there are many differences between the two which makes each one unique. So that lets us know we're focusing on the differences. We're going to hear about the similarities, but we're focusing on the differences. Then we get the full-blown thesis statement. The geography, people, and food of both Singapore and Trinidad show many similarities, yet many differences as well. So that's letting us know the similarities are pretty clear. So we want to look closer at the differences. And what differences are we going to look at? Specifically, geography, people, and food, right? So we know those are the three main points that are going to get discussed. So let's make sure that they stuck to that order and stayed focused. First, there are many similarities and differences between the geography of Singapore and Trinidad. So yes, they've listed geography first in the thesis statement. That's what they're going to discuss first in the body of the essay. First, there are many similarities and differences between the geography of Singapore and Trinidad. Then they discuss what some of the similarities are, right? Although both furthermore, they are relatively small compared to other countries like Canada, China, and the United States. However, Singapore is located in Southeast Asia, close to Malaysia and Indonesia, while Trinidad is located in the Caribbean off the coast of South America near Venezuela. Although both island nations, Trinidad's land area is about 7 times as large as Singapore's. Trinidad is also more mountainous, while Singapore is relatively flat. Furthermore, Singapore is mostly urban and built up, while Trinidad is not. So they transitioned us from talking about the obvious similarities to maybe some of the lesser obvious differences. Okay, we're moving on to the next main point. Remember, they listed the people second in the thesis statement. Let's see if they stuck to that. In addition to geography, great transition, reminded us of what we just discussed. In addition to geography, the people of Singapore and Trinidad share many things in common, but each still retain their unique differences as well. So then they get into what some of the similarities are for the people. And then midway through, they shift. Despite the similarities, there are some key differences. And then they discuss what the differences are, right? So they listed food third in their thesis statement. Let's see if they stuck to that. Finally, the food of Singapore and Trinidad are quite similar in many ways, yet they each remain distinct from each other. So they discuss what some of the similarities are and then transition us into the differences, right? So they've followed the same pattern with every main point. And they stuck to the same order that they did in the thesis statement: geography, people, food. They discussed the similarities first in each main point, and then transitioned us to talk about the differences, because that's what we're emphasizing. As illustrated, getting into the conclusion, as illustrated, despite the many similarities between Singapore and Trinidad, each of those tropical paradises contain many unique aspects as well. So reminding us that yes, we discussed the similarities, but we were focused on the differences. The differences is what we really wanted to point out. While the geography, people, and food share many similarities, reminding us of those three main topics that we were looking at, 3 main points, The differences between make each of these tropical islands unique from each other. If you are still thinking about escaping the cold Canadian winters to a tropical island paradise, you have to make sure you visit because Singapore and Trinidad both have a distinct and vibrant culture that you must experience. So again, ending on that note where we know for sure that it's those differences that they wanted to highlight. So very good example of how to organize a compare and contrast with the point by point method. So whatever your 3 points are that you're going to look at, list those in your thesis statement and then follow that same order in the body paragraphs. Give us the transitions first, next, in addition to, finally, give us a transitional topic sentence at the beginning of each paragraph. Make sure that, just like, if we're comparing and contrasting Singapore and Trinidad, we're going to talk about Singapore first and then Trinidad. And then the differences, Singapore and Trinidad. So follow the same pattern from your thesis statement, how you list your points there, to how you discuss them in the body of the essay, but then also in each paragraph, use the same order, right? Should match up really evenly, almost perfectly. And then give us that concluding paragraph that reminds us of the points you looked at for your compare and contrast, as well as the point, the whole overall point. Were you focusing on the similarities or were you focusing on the differences? Remind us of that in the conclusion as well. So anyway, good example of how to organize and use those transitional topic sentences, how to have a good introduction and a strong conclusion, and how to connect everything in between and stay in the same pattern all the way through. If you have any questions about this essay, let me know. Otherwise, you are free to move on to the next item in the module.